Listen, if you want to get away from the martial law and the this white man trying to destroy us, trying to come into our neighborhoods and just murder us and kill us because they have a plan of extermination, so they're gonna try to use martial law to make it look like they're doing something genuine to protect society. If you're that concerned about these issues, then you should also be concerned politically, get involved in politics, then also get involved in those stories that you find out that come out on the media about these young black men getting shot. Do some research on them. Don't just go by what the media says, portraying it as injustices. Having young kids, very young, they're 6, 7 years old, with signs saying, "I am Michael Brown." You are not Michael Brown. But because no one is there to teach that young child, I could just imagine it. The kid is at home with a little poster, and he's making the sign in dedication of someone he believes was shot and murdered. His guardian, his parent, someone older, was conscious of particular things, should have said, "Well, you're not Michael Brown, whatever his name would be. You're not Michael Brown, Marcus." Michael Brown, unfortunately, was a criminal. He robbed a store. He assaulted the clerk, and he may have assaulted the cop. He lost his life. You're not Michael Brown, because Michael Brown was a criminal. I'm sorry, I can't let you make that sign. Now what the kid will do, the kid will use logic and say, "Okay, I didn't know. But did he deserve to die still?" Well, in situations like that, the cop was, defending himself, and unfortunately Michael Brown lost his life. Now, no, you can say he doesn't deserve to die because he hasn't done anything so drastic to where he would deserve to be executed in a prison for killing many people. But this is something that he brought upon himself, and it's unfortunate. That little kid would obtain some knowledge about these particular issues, political issues also, instead of the parents, the people that allowed this kid to make that sign saying he's Michael Brown. Then you have people portraying themselves as Michael Brown in a reenactment where they got their hands raised and surrendering. You're going off of whose story that he did that? His friend that got on national television and flat out lied? He didn't even acknowledge or admit the fact that they robbed a store. I could have gave him some credit and said, well, damn, at least he was man enough to admit his wrongdoing. To say that before I start with this incident, I want to say that I am sorry for what we did. We robbed the store, and we shouldn't have done that. And I'll own up to our mistakes. He didn't even do that. He got on camera and just started telling us out of the store. When there's a video out there showing you and your friend robbing a store, I could have at least said, yo, at least he was man enough to admit that. But because they play the victimization strategy, he just went on there blaming the cop for murdering a young black man, knowing damn well you just robbed a store. Now, listening to his side of the story, which I've already uploaded and evaluated that, has a story of Michael Brown and his friend walking down the middle of the street after robbing a store. Now, this would mean that they believe they're invincible. We're getting away with this crime. I'm gonna rob the store, then walk down the street and laugh and joke and pretend like we didn't do nothing wrong. We just walking down the street. He says the cop told them to get out of the middle of the street. And what does he tell the cop? Wait, we'll be out of the middle of the street in a moment. Who says something like that? Because that's not what he said. You can see, you gotta listen to these statements and evaluate these things properly, because you can get caught up in the emotions of the situation. Of course, because this person has been killed/murdered. There's a loss of life, so you're listening with your emotions as opposed to listening with your mind to evaluate that situation. The person says, we'll be out of the middle of the street in a moment. We're on our way. Our destination is right down the way. You don't say that. The cop tells you to get out of the middle of the street. You get out of the middle of the street for one reason. You don't want to have any problems with the cop. See, that showed a sign of defiance, in which he was defiant. Because I'm going to do a translation. He says the cop told him to get out of the middle of the street. Their response was, we'll be out of the middle of the street in a moment. Our destination is right down the way. That translates to, fuck you. We can walk in the middle of the street if we want. Do something. The cop, from his side of the story, just with 1 or 2 seconds, turns around, stops his car, and pins us in the middle of the street. Now, from that perspective, you have a cop telling you to get out of the middle of the street, and then all of a sudden, he says, okay, I'm finna harass you guys. But if you told the cop, fuck you, I ain't gotta listen to you, I can walk in the middle of the street if I want. Of course he would have came back around and been more aggressive. because you are disrespecting the law, which indicates you are a potential criminal. And then on top of that, he had enough time to eyewitness you and tie you to the particular crime that you just committed just minutes earlier, or whatever, what time frame it was. So, see, if you would have acknowledged your crime, then you would have gained some sympathy from people. But you didn't even acknowledge your crime. So that's like saying I wouldn't rob someone in their house. Me and my friend just came into somebody's house, then they shot my friend. Now I'm on TV saying they murdered my friend. What did you expect to happen? You just robbed my house. Or you're in the process of robbing my house. I have the right to defend my home. But does Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, do they come out and responsibly lecture this young man and say, listen, you committed a crime. I don't know what exactly happened, but the first thing you need to do is when you're interviewed is admit your wrongdoing. Because we're playing the sympathy factor. You gotta get some sympathy. You didn't even get the sympathy factor because you didn't admit your crime. See? Then he says, well, the police officer grabbed Michael Brown, right? Once again, it could, even if he did grab him, it would have been out of you disrespecting the law. Now he has the right to arrest you because you're disobeying the law. And on top of that, you're being belligerent, you're being aggressive with your disrespect, so he has the right to grab you by the neck and try to arrest you. But he gets away, and then he shoots him. He shoots him once, and then you guys run away, right? And then he gets shot in the back, then he turns around and then raises his hands up in surrendering. Let me ask you, why did it take him so long to surrender if you guys were just walking down the street not doing anything? The time frame in which you guys were innocently just walking down the street to the point where he finally surrendered is too long. What is all of that middle ground area where your interaction with the cop is taking place? It seems you were mouthing off at the cop, threatening him, and this and that, causing a scene, and now the cop is trying to arrest you. Of course, your friend is proclaiming himself the new Suge Knight, and he bum rushes the cop, and the cop shoots him. Now, after he felt the shots, he's surrendering. But I believe it's too late because he's been fatally wounded. So when he raises his hands up to surrender after getting shot so many times after bum rushing him, now that's the particular time in which he raises his hands in surrendering. But you can't surrender now after you've caused so many problems prior to where you've been fatally wounded. Now tying this into Barack Obama. Barack Obama comes out and makes these public statements about these particular crimes, or these particular tragedies rather, but he didn't acknowledge the crime that Michael Brown committed. He didn't acknowledge the fact that the young man being interviewed on national television about that incident didn't admit his wrongdoing. That's what a president is supposed to do. He's supposed to evaluate the behavior of people, not just come out and be a figurehead, an influential element of seeking some justice, because you're totally disregarding the fact that this young man robbed a store. Now, Barack Obama has clearly shown that he does not care for black people, and black people are not getting the picture. They're not seeing that. Why? Because they're based on emotions. You feel you've been struggling so much in your life, and we're just tired of dealing with this. We finally got a black president, as if you really cared before, because when you say finally, that means you really wanted one before, but you weren't in the voting booths. You weren't voting for a black president, and the black candidate that you should have chosen, Herman McCain, you didn't choose him because he is a Republican, in which you automatically translate that to being a Uncle Tom. The Democrat said, oh no, Democrat is for black people. They fight for black people. NAACP, the whole democratic perspective. But what has any black Democrat done for you? Matter of fact, since you want to go down the road of Barack Obama being a Democrat, why hasn't there been a black Democrat before that's been in office? That's because they ain't wanted to. Why did they allow it now? Because it was finally time. It's been finally time for a change. Listen, you being a smart mouth about this. Barack Obama is here to change the condition of not only people, black people. It's just not a black thing. Barack Obama is for everyone. He's trying to change the situation for everyone. But he's trying to change the situation for black people. Okay, what is the unemployment rate for his hometown of Chicago? It must be pretty high. Because them young black men are running around, it's the Wild Wild West. They're out there shooting each other for sport. What has he done for those black people? Huh? That's where he's from. That's his city. That should be one of his main concerns. What has he done for them? Oh, he can only do so much. Damn, what do you want him to do? Have a curfew for the young black men, 17, 18 years old? Have curfews for them? You know, tell him to go in the house after 9 o'clock. Yes. Yes. Wouldn't that change the situation? But see, I'm being realistic. That's what he should do. But he hasn't done that. So what does that tell you? Just that example. What does that tell you? That has told you he is not for black people. Then there's another issue I want to get into, and it's his sexuality. Now that's kind of more on a gossip type of level, but then it's important too, because we can easily say, man, that's just gossip. They're trying to slander this guy's image, man. Nobody pay attention to that stuff. You need to, because what if it's true? What do you do then? Is he a real black man then? Huh? Is he a black man as a president now if he's homosexual? No, he's not. He's not. And I'm gonna come back with some other things, but I'll leave you with this. I would say I'm 65% convinced that Barack Obama is a homosexual and Michelle Obama is actually a man. Because how do you mistake Michelle for Michael? There is no way you mistake Michelle for Michael. It just doesn't happen. Now, if there was a woman, and even then you perhaps have an affair with your wife. If there was another lady with a similar name to Michelle, can't think of any, one of them distinct names, McKiley or some shit like this. McKiley. Yeah. You was talking to some chick named McKiley, or you had an affair with some woman named McKiley. And you say, me and Michelle. But he said me and Michael. Perhaps Michelle is actually Michael Obama.